welcome to another episode of the Performance Cafe. We're so glad to have you here today. Right, so last month we were rehumanizing leadership. I'm not quite sure that this month will have a solid theme, but I feel like time might start to play a part in it. But let's see how it goes. Stick with me. So, what's really interesting is how many people are feeling like they have to bounce back from COVID. Not having COVID, but getting back into what we call like the swing of work, right? A regular 8-hour job. You go to the office, you work for 8 hours, and people are feeling like, whoa, I'm so busy. What was really interesting is we didn't feel any less busy during COVID, but here we are. And it is something that I'm seeing, and a lot of people are asking me about it when I do coaching with them around how do I time manage properly? How do I prioritize properly? How do I make sure that I get my life back on track? And I don't know how you do all these things. Where did I find the time? And it's so interesting because I think we have the time. I think we just sometimes throw the time away by trying to do too much in too little time. So we hear this, right? We hear this when people say, oh, I'm juggling a million things. I don't have the time. But, if you don't time it properly, you're going to drop things when you juggle. I don't have the time to get my head on straight. Well, you actually are saying, an NLP would have a field day with us and say, but we can see, you actually can hear through your language that you are not taking the time to think. This should be obvious to you. And I think the difficulty with this is this addiction that we've got to busyness. The busier I am, the more important I am. And we actually revere busyness, right? If someone answers a phone and says, talk quickly because I'm busy, we don't think of that as rude. Why did that person even answer the telephone? If you know you're too busy to give something proper attention, don't do it. But such is our addiction to this rush culture, for want of a better word, that we actually feel more validated when someone picks up and says, oh, talk quick because I'm busy, because we're obviously busy enough to get them into for them to, to fit into their day. And this is something that I want to question. And I'll tell you why. It comes from the concept of procrastinating. So what happens when we procrastinate? We have a long time to do something, but we squeeze it into the smallest time possible. Now, if you're me, you're going to go, well, that's because I need pressure to work, which is not entirely untrue, but I'm also an adult. I could fix this. And so what happens is we create our own rush culture by making it a self-fulfilling prophecy. Well, if I have from here to do something, I'm going to squeeze it in there because then I'm going to be busy. I'm going to be so much more effective. You're going to see it's just going to fall out of my head. Well, actually, it doesn't, right? So often we find that procrastination puts us in a situation where there's too little time to actually get something done properly. And this is the problem, because what happens is we then spend our lives not doing anything well while we constantly rushed, constantly exhausted, and never have time for anything else. The irony is that because we're not doing that one thing well, we know it, we feel it. We feel it when someone points it out to us. We feel it when something goes wrong and we go, oh, if I'd started 3 days earlier, I could have actually done a better job of that. So what happens is now we have guilt and self-loathing because we didn't do it properly because we procrastinated. So now we also have guilt and self-loathing about the procrastination as well as the poor outcome. Right. Laying it on thick is what I'm calling it. Now, interestingly enough, I spoke earlier about the fact that, we've got this addiction to this rush culture. It looks so good when we can do something fast. But actually, doing something fast or doing something slow has got nothing to do with how well we do it. In that, we need time to think. And in our rush culture, I find so often people go, just do it. Just give me whatever you can. 80% is fine. And yes, done is better than perfect. I get it. But the problem is that we've almost devalued thinking. Now, if you guys were hanging around a couple of weeks ago, you would have heard me talk about the ancient Greeks and their philosophers. And one of the reasons why we think that there's a stereotype around disliking having to go to work or doing any work is because these individuals used to sit around and think every day. And because their thinking was so important, they didn't have to work. They didn't have to do menial labor. And so thinking at that point in time was considered so important. Now we live in a knowledge age, but we do not think. We do not take the time to think. Whenever we have to do a task, it's about doing the task. It's not about thinking and then doing the task. It's a bit like that old adage, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. But it's pretty much that. So what happens is because we don't think, we don't do, we procrastinate. And you know what? We fail. And very often people will say procrastination is just a symptom of fear of failure. We're scared we're not going to do it right, so we delay doing it as long as we can because we don't expect a positive outcome. Here, we see that actually what's happening is procrastination is actually setting us up for failure. So here's something I'd like to share with you, because I think this would be the mantra that I would have for our rush culture. And I hope it shows you how silly it is not to take the time that we need. So it's a quote from the Red Queen in Alice in Wonderland. And the quote says, "It takes all the running you can do to keep in the same place. If you want to go somewhere else, you must run at least twice as fast as that." And that, I think, is the essence of this rush culture. And I think that's about as productive as it's going to be. So I want to ask you, stretch your tolerance for time, for the use of time. Giving deadlines, try and make those deadlines slightly more roomy. When you are working with employees, make sure that they see the time that you spend thinking through, soundboard things with them so that they can understand the thinking process that comes before the doing process. Because when you as a leader model that it is okay to take the time to think and not just react or not just do the best possible given the limited information, I think you're going to set up your team for success. And by extension, you're setting yourself up for success. Because as we said in the beginning, it's a matter of you not having to redo or deal with the fallout from something that was poorly done. Remember, thinking time is not wasted time. As always, if you've enjoyed this interlude, please, there's a button somewhere on the bottom of the page. Please like and click on the notification bell if you're in YouTube. If you're joining us from LinkedIn or Facebook, thank you for joining us. We appreciate to have you here. Please comment, share, and yes, let us know what you think. And then pop back to YouTube and come and like our channel here as well. But until the next month, where I think we're going to have a new topic, I'll see you again at the Performance Cafe.